movies in the 50s and stuff, they're like all struggling to be a person. We all do it. We all do that.
It's just, it reminds me of, you know how on TikTok people do these things. Man, I meant to talk about my rejuvenating trip, but
we're talking about this now.
On TikTok, there's this thing where someone sets a trend and you don't even know who originally did it because so many people come out and repeat the trend.
Yeah.
And you get to this point where you're like, really? Like, do you really think that you just doing this trend or you doing this joke or you doing this bit is interesting to see? Because we all know that you've gotten it from someone else, but you're just redoing it. Kind of reminds me of the adulting joke where like saying adulting, people think it's a joke in and of itself, but it's not because someone started saying it. And maybe at first it was like, oh, that's so funny. But we keep recycling and using it to the point where people cringe. It's kind of the same thing to me.
It's a meme in the truest sense.
It's
a unit of culture.
Let me talk about my nice trip though.
All right.
Before I have some cynical, mean, judgmental take, which I always
do. The biggest meme of all. Your wedding.
Hey, I've been married for a year and Claude turned 28.
Yeah.
And I got him a fountain pen.
Oh,
and he loved it.
Wow.
And he's taken it to work in his special leather fountain pen case. Fuck, he sounds...
He has a leather case.
Isn't he?
For it.
He's so... I think he's team autistic, you know? I think he's...
Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad you're there.
Autistic-ing.
I'm glad you're there too. He's autistic.
He's just like so... He's so obsessed with fountain pens this year that he's really thrilled by the one I got him. But we just went to the South Australian wine region and got fucking blitzed on white wine for a week. It was fantastic.
Hell yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah. That's what you
so
want.
Wonderful.
That's what you want. Laying in the sun. Laying in the sun.
It was
drinking
sunny.
wine.
Yeah.
Drinking some wine. Getting loose.
Wait,
Laying?
Yeah,
lying down?
I was.
Lying
yeah.
down? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Or like lying down but on a chair, like one of those.
Bathing in the sun. No, never.
Never?
Never.
Well, what were you doing? Where were you laying?
We weren't really laying anywhere. I'm just going to be honest with you, Michelle.
So you lied to me?
We were sitting in the shade of a winery
so
most of the time.
You decided to celebrate your love with lying?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Lying makes the marriage go round.
That's...
Any straight couple will tell you that.
Okay. Well, hey, you are both bi enough that you can't get away with that shit.
Yeah. A bit too queer, aren't we?
A little too queer to get away with that level of straightness. Fountain pens be damned.
Yeah. I reckon Claude is like vaguely, spectrumy.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Every time he and I talk,
niche.
I'm like, yeah, we're alike.
Yeah, he's got his interests and his fixations are a bit too niche for it to just go unexplained.
The amount of times that I've been with him in a conversation and then he'll go, I don't really understand what's happening. And I'm like, I know, bud. Me neither.
Does he say that?
In so many words.
That's so sweet. Oh.
Yeah.
He often, to be honest, once a week he'll be like, do you think I'm on the spectrum? And I'm like, baby, you don't want to know what I think. You're not ready to hear it.
I will say, you've got a type.
Yeah.
You've got a type.
I do. Yeah. Well, you neurodivergence, you just make for a good time.
What the fuck does that mean?
I have a better time with you guys.
Yeah, I know. It's that thing I've talked about, the fucking autism ADHD Riz. Like, it's such a great compatible...
You know what it makes? It makes
What?
for good conversation.
It does.
Because you talk to someone that's just neurotypical and you're like, wow, you've got nothing to say. You've got no emotions, no feelings. I need someone tense and on the edge.
Someone who could pop at any moment. Yes. There's stakes to this conversation.
I do genuinely believe that I just gravitate towards anyone that is like ADHD coded because they're such good fun. I feel like in the past
Coded.
when I've worked places and I meet someone that is just like has ADHD or is ADHD coded, that's the person I befriend because I'm like, you're chaotic. And I love that.
It's the thing, it's literally the thing that I use to help convince you, like, you don't need to keep denying it, you probably have ADHD, where you were like, no, we're all like this. I'm like, yes, we are. We get along.
Yeah.
They out there are not like this.
That's true. Out there in the big wide world.
Out there, most of the people are not like this. That's why we hang out with each other.
That's true.
And that's why we have a podcast. You think a neurotypical person would make this podcast? No. Let alone stick with it?
Yeah, I'm like criticizing Claude for liking fountain pens. I have a podcast where we watch the worst movies. IMDb's top the worst 250.
What are we doing?
What am I doing here?
What are we doing if not making a shrine to neurodivergence?
We literally talk about worst movie all-stars. Like, we collate data on this shit.
Our favorite fans are people who like make websites and charts for us. We've made a totem to neurodivergence.
That's a really good point.
It's great. It's great because that's really the journey we're chronicling. It's nothing to do with the movies. It's both of us individually coming to terms with our neurodivergence.
What I do like about this podcast is it makes you think, why would they do this? Like, why would they do this to themselves?
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
I like to think that's the first thing that people think when either we pitch the premise or they just listen to an episode. So why are they doing this?
The thing that's impressive about this podcast is not the quality of it. It's the fact that we're still here. That's honestly...
Anyone else would have given up, especially with listenership this low.
We need more websites and graphs made for us to keep going.
Yeah, come on, guys. Get it together.
Get graphing.
Get graphic. Where's the fan art,
Yeah, I want another word search that's rating descending themed.
I want a bad Photoshop of IMDb Boss Baby.
Yeah, I want a Photoshop of me and Michelle fighting IMDb Boss Baby.
Yeah.
In the nether realm.
Yeah, in the void space.
In the IMDb void.
In our one intro where you trapped me into the void space.
Yeah.
That's great.
Speaking of things that are great, this wasn't. This week we watched Caddyshack 2.
I thought you were going to say things that trapped us in the void space, because that's how I felt watching Caddyshack 2.
Michelle, you can't rewrite my segue, okay?
I can. It's punch. It's called a punch up, and it's really common.
It's not a punch up.
You're right. It was punching down.
It was just punching neutral. Frankly,
punching sideways.
It neither gave nor
That's
took.
just punching.
Yeah.
A neutral, regular punch.
Well, thanks for punching me after my segue.
You know I love it.
This week we watched Caddyshack 2.
Have you ever seen the first Caddyshack?
I have. Have you?
I intended to for this and ran out of time.
So when I was...
I've been very, very busy.
That's fair. When I was younger, I watched Caddyshack with my brother, and I had this memory of it not being very funny. So what I did, Michelle, is that yesterday I rewatched the first one.
Fun.
I rented it for $2.99 on Amazon Prime, and I watched the first Caddyshack, and here's my hot take.
Yeah.
I laughed more at the second one than the first one.
That is a fucking sizzling...
Yeah.
I gotta do my little audio magic and put a sizzling hot pan frying up some Abby takes.
Well, here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
In the first Caddyshack, it's become a cult classic. And to be fair, when it came out, everyone was like, yeah, that was a very middling film. And then over the years, it became a cult classic because it had Bill Murray, because it had Chevy Chase. It was a lot of SNL members.
I also think this kind of 80s comedy becomes a cult classic specifically because they're part of the genre that I want to pitch right now of vibes comedies.
Yeah.
Where the plot is secondary. You're just hanging out.
And here's the thing, though. I did like Animal House. Didn't like Caddyshack. And I was really validated by the fact that when I rewatched it, it wasn't very good. And Claude and I, when we went to bed last night, Claude started laughing and I was like, what are you laughing about? And he was like, I was just thinking about how you didn't laugh at all throughout Caddyshack until the final line where he noticed I just was like sitting there not enjoying myself for like an hour and a half. He even said, he was like, I think Caddyshack plummeted your mood. Because we went out last night and he was like, what's the matter? And I was like, I don't know, I've just been in a really bad mood since I finished Caddyshack. But he was like, he noticed that I didn't laugh at all until the final line where, I don't know if you're aware, but Rodney Dangerfield is in the first Caddyshack.
That's right, he is. And does he, as tradition states, not get any respect?
He got no respect.
Got no respect.
He actually, to be fair, he was the standout of the film.
Well, yeah,
but at the end,
he's a great comedian.
Even then, couldn't laugh until the end, where after the good guys win and the bad guys lose the golf tournament, Rodney Dangerfield out of nowhere just says, hey everybody, we're all gonna get laid. And I started cackling and Claude was just like, I can't believe that was the one thing you laughed at the entire film. And he's right. But here's another take. See, I love golf.
Yeah.
And we know this because when I went on my honeymoon in April this year, I got into the Masters tournament and it all escalated from there.
Yeah. And you don't mean you got into watching it. You, Abigail Wood, got into the Masters tournament, if I'm not mistaken.
I did.
Right?
I forged my way, like
competed.
Morris Flitcroft, into the US Open.
You were the new Phantom of the Open.
I was. But I love golf. So I was like, yeah, Caddyshack golf film. It's just not funny. The initial film is not funny, even though a lot of people want to say that it's one of the best sports comedy of all time. It really just does not hit. And
it's not even the best golf sports comedy because it's no Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, true.
Which is like not a fantastic movie, but it's pretty funny if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And even the Phantom of the Open that came out, not a comedy, more of a drama, fantastic golf film. This was terrible. So coming into Caddyshack 2, I was shocked because I thought, for one, Bill Murray plays the vaguely mentally disabled groundskeeper.
Tread lightly.
Yeah, I am.
Figure it out.
I clearly am. He's a mentally disabled groundskeeper, and then Dan Aykroyd fills that void in this one.
Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd, I actually thought was kind of giving it, was kind of funny. Bill Murray in the first one was possibly just the worst I've ever seen him. I just think he played a horrible character. He wasn't funny. Nothing landed. But with Dan Aykroyd, I was like, okay.
Really?
All right. Yeah.
Because I couldn't get over the specific choice of the voice he was doing.
Apparently he was doing it to mock a famous soldier.
Oh, okay.
That was quite big in the 80s. His name was Nathan something. Fuck, I should find it. Nathan North? Something North.
That's one of the most upsetting things you said. A soldier that was big in the 80s.
Big in the 80s.
Is horrifying as a statement.
What do you mean?
No, we shouldn't have soldiers who are real big and popular in a particular time.
For some reason, he was idolized.
The Chris Kyle of his day.
True. But I thought Dan Aykroyd in comparison was actually really giving it. So that was a tick against the initial one.
That's tick one.
Also, in the first Caddyshack, all the women are just objects of desire or flat or characterless, whereas in this one, the main character, Jackie, who is clearly the Rodney Dangerfield character returned, just played by a different actor, because they both have the same shtick of like, hey, I'm walking here, I'm from New York, I'm Jewish, what do you to say, doll? It's the same shtick. And in fact, when I did the research, turns out that character, the main character, was meant to be Rodney Dangerfield's initial character from Caddyshack, but Rodney Dangerfield pulled out.
Wait, which character are we referring to in Caddyshack 2?
Jack?
The
old man from New York.
Jackie Mason?
Yeah.
Right, okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I was confused. I thought, because you were talking about women, I didn't realize when you pivoted to talk about Jackie Mason.
Well, I haven't finished.
Oh, okay.
That character, his daughter,
yes,
Kate, she's actually an okay character.
I like her in this. She has
depth. She's interesting. They don't objectify her. So another tick against Caddyshack 1.
I'm actually with you. I liked her in this.
Yeah. Also,
and Jackie Mason is as funny as Rodney Dangerfield for sure.
Also, is it on the he is it on the nose about the theme of like basically classism within this country club? Absolutely. But it actually had a theme, whereas the first Caddyshack definitely didn't.
Yeah.
Another tick.
I don't think it has a really solid idea of class consciousness, but it certainly wants to talk about class consciousness.
Yeah. They try. They gave it a good shot. The first one didn't even bother. They were too busy just doing cocaine every single night on the set of the first one, and it's not even a joke. They were.
Yeah, of course.
There was a lot of sex, drugs, and rock and roll for the first film.
I was trying to remember which was the one where John Belushi had in his trailer like a mountain of cocaine.
Was that Blues Brothers?
Maybe it was Blues Brothers.
Maybe.
But in this, I feel like this accidentally stumbles into the intersection of ethnicity and class more than it genuinely has a stance about class consciousness.
Yeah.
Because even though Jackie Mason and his daughter are richer than almost anyone there, they're Jewish.
Yep.
And it's never stated, but all of the very waspy other characters are like, we don't really like... They even say like how you talk with his like very Yiddish sort of accent.
And also there's that bit where the girl Miffy, like the daughter of Chandler Young, who is we'll get into it, but a girl that Jack's daughter Kate befriends, she mentions that she should change her name to Hart.
Yeah.
And she's like, why should I change her name? And she's like, because, it sounds a bit... And she never finishes the sentence. She doesn't even say, because it makes people know that you're his daughter. She just doesn't get to finish the sentence. And I was like, is it because it sounds ethnic?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. Anyway. Look, I will get into this film, but I wanted to mention a few things about Caddyshack 1 as well. Because Caddyshack 1 was directed by Harold Ramis.
Yeah, that's right.
First debut film by him.
Oh, I didn't realize Caddyshack was the first time he directed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Lots of SNL cast, has a cult following. I always thought it had terrible vibes, and I'm just mentioning this because I think it's both gross and also just continues to validate a lot of my discomfort and annoyance around it. Because when I was watching Caddyshack yesterday, there's this scene where there's this beautiful young blonde woman called Lacey, and she's like the niece of the guy that owns the country club in the first one. She has sex with the main character, and she has to get her tits out a lot. And it's like quite an intimate sex scene. And then, of course, I read that apparently...
Oh, my God.
She was forced into doing the topless scene. She didn't want to do it. And when she tried to back out of it, the producer, John Peters, called her and was like, if you don't do it, you'll never get a job in Hollywood again.
Oh, my God.
They force her to do this topless sex scene that she's not comfortable with. And Harold Ramis did the thing that the director on The Canyons did, where he was like, we'll make you feel more comfortable by taking our shirts off, as if a man taking his shirt off has anything similar in feeling to a woman having to do so when she said she doesn't want to. All the men take their shirt off, and she went on to later say that it made her feel even more uncomfortable that there were a ton of shirtless men, because they were all men.
Of course they were.
Watching her.
Yeah.
So that's horrible, right?
Yeah. It's also like they always do that in movies, and then men think of the women as shallow and just obsessed with their looks. It's the fucking quote about the painting a naked woman and then putting a mirror in her hand and calling it vanity.
Yes.
It's that with movies. Why was anyone surprised about Me Too when we have a long history of doing that?
It's so true. You know, when Claude and I were at the art gallery in Adelaide, I was joking how men are obsessed with making these portraits of women with their exposed back and arse out, and then they claim that we are the ones that are obsessed with our image.
It's fucking
You're
insane.
the one fucking immortalizing us in these really boring portraits that you've clearly taken the morning after.
No, they're just being... They're fucking Frollo in Hunchback of Notre Dame. They're like, oh, look at how hot she is. Oh, that's sinful how much I'm nutting
what a
at
fucking
this...
bitch.
What a bitch how much she wants me to nut.
Yeah, 100%. It makes me furious as well, because I'm like, the idea that anyone thinks this is actually artistic or is saying anything of merit.
Yeah.
You are kidding yourself. You took this because you had a stiffy, all right?
Yeah.
That's all you did. You painted it because you thought it was hot.
It gets me because we could just be admiring beautiful people, and we're not. Now we're turning it into something sinister and awful and horrid and about
then
power
lying about
and control.
it and then trying to convince women that it's not an issue.
Yeah.
I'm angry, and you can't tell me not to be angry about these things. In fact, the older I get, the angrier I get at everything men do to women.
Yeah.
Don't try me.
Yeah, woo!
Woo! Okay.
That's the crowd that's nearby.
Let's go into Caddyshack 2.
Okay.
It was directed by Alan Arkush and written by Harold Ramis. Ramis, who co-wrote and directed the original Caddyshack, and PJ Turokve.
Okay.
It starred Jackie Mason as Jack Hartunian.
Yeah.
Hartunian.
He even played a different character a few years earlier whose last name was Hartunian.
Yeah, I read that. And that's where he actually asked to use the name again.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Jackie Mason's a funny guy.
Yeah, he was also he voiced Krusty's dad in The Simpsons.
That's right.
Yeah. He was Rabbi Kristovsky was the name?
Yeah, Kristovsky.
Kristinsky, yeah.
I think it's Kristovsky.
Yeah.
It's Polish Jewish for sure.
You've got Robert Stack playing Chandler Young. He's a classic actor. You've got Dina Merrill playing Cynthia Young. You've got Randy Quaid back from Adventures of Pluto Nash. He
and
played
Adventures
Peter Blunt.
of Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yeah, so third time, Randy Quaid. How good. We've got Chevy Chase as Ty Webb. Dan Aykroyd as Tom Everett. We've got Jessica Lundy as Kate, and then we've got Chynna Phillips as Mary Frances, who is Miffy.
Yeah.
And do you know who Chynna Phillips is?
No, but she was so familiar the whole time. I didn't look it up.
She's the daughter of the two members of the Mamas and the Papas that dated.
Oh.
Michelle Phillips and the guy from the Mamas and the Papas.
Yeah.
She's the love child of the Mamas and the Papas.
I mean, if it's not Cass Elliot, who cares? You know?
Yeah, true. Also, just before I go into the overview, in a 1999 interview, Harold Ramis kind of explained the catastrophe of this film getting made. He detailed that with Caddyshack 2, the studio begged me. They said, hey, we've got a great idea. The shack is back. And I said, no, I don't think so. But they said that Rodney Dangerfield really wanted to do it and we could build it around Rodney. Rodney said, come on, do it. Then the classic argument came up, which says that if you don't do it, someone will, and it will be really bad. So I worked on a script with my partner, PJ Turokve, consulting with Rodney all the time. Then Rodney got into a fight with the studio and fully backed out.
Oh my God.
We had some success with Back to School, which I produced. When Rodney pulled out, I pulled out, and then they fired Alan and got someone else in. I got a call from John Peters, the guy that pressured that girl in the first film to take her top off, saying, come with us to New York. We're going to see Jackie Mason. I said, oh, don't do this. Why don't we just let it die? And he said, no, it'll be great. But I didn't go, and they got other writers to finish it. I tried to take my name off the film, but they said if I took my name off, it would come out in the trades and I would hurt the film. So I didn't. Aww. So once again, John Peters manipulating the shit out of everyone.
Oh my God,
at his own whim.
These fucking producers, man. What is the deal?
I fully hope that John Peters is dead, or if he's not dead, he's like suffering some horrible chronic illness. I can just tell he was a real piece of shit.
Hopefully he's in hell.
I hope he's in hell. Actually, look at him. Here's a photo of John Peters.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you can tell he's a fucking scumbag.
Everyone right now, rewind, look up John Peters, and then you go like, oh my God.
Just look at the main photo of him on his IMDb page, because I think you'll fully understand everything. He
looks like he got kicked out of Aerosmith.
Yeah. He looks like he's Tom Cruise's body double, you know, like... Anyway. So that's the production words of it. Also, Michelle, just so you know, the film cost $39 million to make. God. How much do you think it made back?
That movie cost $39 million? Where did it go? Up Jackie Mason's nose?
Yeah, or up John Peters' fucking ass when he was shelving coke. I don't know, man.
That was a quote I saw recently of why movies are so expensive now. And they were like, it's easier to steal one of $200 million than it is to steal one of 20.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh my God, that is it, isn't it?
Ooh.
Yeah.
What do you think it made, Michelle?
Caddyshack 2?
Yeah. Yep.
20?
Lower.
10?
$11 million. Yeah.
Caddyshack 2 wasn't a big hit at the box office.
Crazy.
Caddyshack 2. There's no Bill Murray, but we got Jackie Mason.
Here's the overview. Kate and her dad, Jack Hartoonian, have come into new money. Having joined the Bushwood Golf Club, Kate is keen to fit in and is constantly embarrassed by her loud, boorish father. The snobbish president of the club, Chandler Young, declares Jack not Bushwood material. Jack turns to his friend, millionaire Ty Webb, who owns the majority share of Bushwood. He buys Ty's stock in the club and turns Bushwood into a garish amusement park called Jackie's Wacky Golf. Chandler hires a mercenary named Tom Everett to kill Jack after being hooked up by a mutual friend. And then, obviously, Tom Everett, being the Bill Murray stand-in, has a whole thing with the gopher, the classic gopher thing in Caddyshack.
Yeah, that was... it's so belabored and inserted, the gopher thing.
And it's exactly the same in the first one.
Oh, is it? I thought it was at least a little more organic and part of it.
I really stand by my hot take. This was better than the first one.
That's crazy.
Ty suggests that the dispute between Jack and Chandler be resolved by the two men facing each other in a golf match. Despite Jack's poor performance, he wins the match, and Kate comes to realize that she doesn't need to change herself to fit in.
Yeah.
At the end.
She can be just as Jewish as she wants. Because again, it's not a class thing, because her family has tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
She even asked one of them earlier, the caddy, what class do you think I am? And I think that convo was actually kind of funny and nicely written. It is
class in a sense, just because even though they've come into money, there is this very American idea of new money versus old money.
Yeah.
And I think they keep identifying that although he's come into money, the same way Rodney Dangerfield's character in the first Caddyshack did.
Yeah.
He's too gimmicky and crass and loud to be considered part of their society.
I mean, that's an American thing imported from Europe. That's like nobility versus wealth.
Which is so funny, because America initially prided themselves on not having the nobility and aristocracy that people would have to rise through in England to be anyone of note. America was like, you can be no one and raise yourself into a hardworking and respected man. Yeah. And all we care about is how much money you make. And it doesn't matter if you come from nobility or not. But nowadays, everyone's like, well, they're not old Hartford money, so why would I care?
Well, it was that way back then too. It's just the guys saying that were like fucking JP Morgan and David Rockefeller, because then you could get serfs to work for free.
Don't forget the Rothschilds.
Well, yeah, sure. I just mean like, railroads and banks in like 1910s America is where you really solidify that.
I wish I was part of some old oil money.
Yeah, but conversely, then you would suck.
Yeah,
Now,
probably.
right now, you're just annoying. That's different.
Hey! I meant to bully you. How dare you?
I got one in.
Wow.
I fucking did it.
Bullying is my thing. So back the fuck off.
I shouldn't step on your turf.
Thank you.
I shouldn't. I
Thank
really
you.
shouldn't. Mine is earnestly trying to do this podcast. I will say at the beginning of this movie, there's the caddies. Oh, God, this movie really makes you think different characters are going to be the lead characters.
Yeah.
You really don't see it being Jackie Mason until you're like 20 minutes in, and you're like, I guess it's kind of his movie.
I think it was meant to be the daughter, but it wasn't her movie.
The
It starts
daughter
and ends with
and
her.
the caddy. What's
Yeah.
his name again?
Oh, I can't remember the caddy's name.
It doesn't matter. Let's
It
just
doesn't
call him.
matter at all.
His name is Caddyshack.
Yeah.
Right? He's asked to go like get a root beer for one of them, and then
For Miffy.
the opening credits is him running over the most 80s fucking soundtrack.
And the soundtrack, by the way, still just as bad in the first one.
I can imagine.
Same vibe.
And I gotta say, I enjoyed it, if not for the double of it is refreshing to get to watch something from the 80s, as well as I like when there's sequences like that on this list, because the more there is of people running to 80s music, the less there is of movie.
Yes.
Percentage wise.
Yes.
And I'd much rather vibe to someone just doing a jog with some titles and synths.
It's a great opportunity to get up, pour yourself a drink, come back.
Yeah, drink my fucking Dr. Pepper and
No,
just
you'd be drinking the
relax.
diet root beer that Miffy ordered at the beginning of the film.
I wouldn't, because I'm not a wasp. I'm not wealthy. I'm not part of that people.
You're not Anglo?
Well, I think I am Anglo.
Oh, actually, they're referring to Anglo-Saxon, aren't they, rather than Anglican?
Yeah.
Yeah, never mind.
White Anglo-Saxon. Well, that's the S. White
Yeah.
Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
Never mind.
Because it's a thing. It doesn't have to just be... It's also funny that they say Anglo-Saxon because they're including the Germans. That's why it's Protestant instead of just Anglican.
Well, you're not Protestant.
I'm
are
not.
you?
I'm not Protestant.
You're not really anything.
I'm not. No.
I'm technically Protestant.
That's yeah.
Yeah.
You are. Yeah. Whereas I wasn't formally brought into any church at any point. Both of my parents are quite avowed atheists.
I think I was baptized Protestant.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
My mum very specifically tried to take me out at every opportunity from like religious schools, but she wanted me to go into religious classes because she was like, you should learn about it. I just don't want them to make you think you're part of it.
Lucky you.
And
I had
was
to
like,
go
that's
to
a good
Sunday
balance.
school for 10 fucking years.
Oh my God.
You know that.
I did, but I forgot.
It's terrible.
No, that's a lot.
My mom could only bribe me into it by giving me candy afterwards. We'd go to the newsagent
Nice.
next door and I'd get all these like little lollies and stuff my face. I'd get a Bubble Bill most of the time as well.
Nice. The good approach of my mum compared to my dad, who's a lot more aggressive about his atheism, was my mum was like, we don't like believe these things, but like respect it, learn about it, know about it. These are part of their heritage and all of that. But that doesn't. We're not practicing anything. And I was like, oh, okay. Whereas I've met some people who like raised atheist who are real shitheads about it. Really,
Oh,
really
100%.
fucking awful.
I have
about
to
it.
say, there was a lot of guys in high school that
Oh
were
my
trying to
God.
be edgy, being like, God doesn't exist, right? And it was like, fuck, you're the kind of guy that would also be like, astrology's not real. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Lots of things aren't real. COD isn't real, okay?
Yeah.
Touch some grass,
Yeah.
Damien.
You think you're so proud of being in a card lobby? That's not real either, bro. you fucking level up, man.
Just fucking, touch a breast consensually.
Consensually
It'll be
touch
good
a
for you.
breast.
Be good for you to talk to women once in a while.
Why don't you go near enough to a woman that you can smell her and then touch grass? You're struggling, man.
My hatred for men has really increased recently. I don't know what it is. Sometimes I ruminate. I just sit there and I think about all the atrocities men commit against women, and then I just get angrier and angrier and angrier. And Caddyshack 2 just brought this out even more.
I guess the good thing about the rise of TERFs is it's tempered my hatred of men, because there's a growing movement of women who hate me for ridiculous reasons. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, there's a balance here. I'm multi-gender in my hate.
Unfortunately, when it comes to trans issues, I think men and women are just equally as
Yeah.
pro and against.
I
But
think,
when it comes to
statistically, men are actually more anti, but the specific type of woman who is against is very loud about it.
But when it comes to gendered issues of people hating women, it's a lot of men.
I do think the people who hate women are primarily men.
Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's women that hate women, but you forgive them because you're like, hey, you're going through it too.
Yeah.
So I get it. But with men, I'm like, you're not going through shit. You're not going through anything that we're going through. And then you still hate us for it.
Yeah.
Why? I'm on a tear today.
You are on a tear today.
Got some
Caddyshack
anger.
2 inspired this.
I come back being like, I feel rejuvenated, but my energy has been poured into man-hating.
Yeah, you're like, it's been 1 year being married. We watched the fun Gopher movie. I think this is better than the first one. I'm so angry.
Look, we had a long interstate drive, and I spent a lot of it thinking about how awful men can be.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, hey, my car broke down, and I really should have gotten more angry at men about it.
Yeah. 100%.
I don't think it was their fault, but I think no one would have blamed me.
Would have been a good opportunity to make
would
it
have been
their
really
fault
fun.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I do think as well, though, because I know many men who are nice, and I think it's important when we get angry at men, not all men. It's important. Abby, I just really need you to say that it isn't all men.
How do you know?
I need you to say it with words.
But how do you know that they are nice, some of the men that you've met? Because what if it's just an act? And what if you've never met a good man in your life?
Maybe when they're mean, it's just an act.
Exactly. Oh, no, I wouldn't say they're it. No, they're all horrible. I'm going to be such a bitch when I go through menopause. I can't wait. When I turn 50 and I truly stop caring about what men ever think of me,
Yeah.
it's going to go crazy.
Oh, my God. I think both of us are born to be 50 in different ways.
Yeah. Spiritually, I'm already there.
I've said before, I cannot wait. Right now, I am tedious, and I cannot wait to age into a point where I'm eccentric instead.
Yeah. Do you remember that Blackadder quote where he's like, I want to be young and wild, and then I want to be middle-aged and rich, and then I want to be old and annoy people by pretending I'm deaf all the time. And I was like, yeah. When I'm middle-aged, I want to be like mean and rich. That's the idea.
I think a lot of people want to be rich, for sure.
I want to be mean as well. I think it'd benefit me.
I think it would be good. You know what you should get into is boxing.
Yeah?
Genuinely. You got a lot of anger, and I know that, you love a good bit of exercise as well. You just punched yourself in the head.
I
What
was
the fuck?
pretending to flex.
This is why I think you'll get better at hand-eye coordination. I mean this is a genuine pitch. I think you would enjoy getting into boxing
Maybe.
as a form of exercise.
It sounds exhausting right now, but I'm sure you're right.
You don't have to get into it this moment. We're recording. Abby, get back here. Abby, stop punching. No. I did have the moment while watching this, actually, where Chevy Chase appears, and I went, Chevy Chase is in this?
Yeah, bad vibes.
Yeah.
Bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Apart from him being a shitcon on Community, what other bad things has he done?
Oh, just he's kind of cunty.
He is cunty.
And quite famously so. But I think because of the association, like, I don't know how much he actually did work with Martin Short and Steve Martin outside of the Three Amigos. I think a little bit. I think a bit. But that
Yeah.
is the most known role with the three of them.
Yeah.
Because of that, every time I see Chevy Chase on his own, I think it could have been Steve Martin or Martin Short. And so I'm
Martin
like,
Short's such a good guy.
imagine that same role of like the wealthy, ridiculous businessman
But
who
it's
owns
Martin
the country.
Short.
But it's Martin Short instead.
Martin Short
Excellent.
provided the best comedic moment in all of Arrested Development when he's
Yes.
playing that family friend that can't walk and his bodyguard's holding him and he starts spitting out water and he goes, it happens sometimes.
No, it's because he's spinning him, he's shaking him because he's misheard a thing. That's the whole shtick, is that the bodyguard mishears, and then he just throws
up.
and he's like, it's okay, it's just something the body does when you shake it.
That's right.
Incredible. He does it pitch perfect. It's so good.
Oh, fuck.
Martin Short is a national treasure. There was that, did you see that earlier in the year? There was the article that came out where someone was, I don't know, I assume the fucking editor of whatever online website it was like, we have to get more clicks. What is the most bizarre take you can think of? And someone was like, it's that Martin Short isn't funny at all and never was.
What the fuck?
And it turned into a really nice few days on Twitter where it was just people posting clips of Martin Short being like, this was so funny. This where he's interviewing as Glick. This is really funny. This bit's so many like bits of him on Letterman and stuff.
It. Have you seen that
So
interview
funny.
where one of the anchors of the news station he was being interviewed by clearly didn't do all of their research or wasn't given the right research, because she asks him about his wife of 36 years and his wife had died 2 years prior.
Oh, yes, this. Yeah.
And he's so polite about it. He doesn't correct her. He just
Yeah.
goes, yep, well, I still love her. And he's really clever about his choice of words, where he says, I still love her. And this is why we fell in love. And he's really sweet about it.
And I know from both personal family experience and also from testimonials from people who've had
Have you
loved
had a
ones
wife
die.
that died?
No, I haven't, but we don't need to get into it. But it lets you live in the idea that they're alive again for a brief moment. You know?
Yeah.
And that's really nice and cathartic in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Conversely, I also really liked when he was interviewing Larry David as Glick, and he was saying, like, when does show Larry David begin and this Larry David end, and when can we get to that part? And it's just so, like, it all hits you right at the end.
We've got to stop talking about a guy that wasn't in this film.
That's a really great point.
The guy that we wish was playing the Chevy
Instead
Chase
of
character. Chevy Chase has one bit, which is either... Like, I can't say either. Here's one bit. His bit is that he's like a clueless buffoon.
Yeah. He's a clueless buffoon who is an asshole, which means he's just doing, like, he and... Oh, what was his name? Dennis Miller? The guy who sang I'm an Asshole?
Oh, Dennis O'Leary.
Yeah. They're both
Dennis
just...
Leary.
Because they're both just stealing from fucking Bill Hicks.
Yeah.
He's still to date one of the only people I know who's really gotten away with the I'm just a piece of shit but I'm really funny.
I feel like Chevy Chase, there was a line in this film that did make me laugh, and it's when he is talking about his parents and he's like, oh, no, I think they are dead. I was like, that was funny. That
made
was
me laugh
good.
too,
There was
yeah.
a couple of lines where I was like, huh. Again, I just think overall there were a few more lines in this film that made me laugh in comparison to the first film. And I think it gets me that so many people are like, Caddyshack's so good. And I'm like, I genuinely think the second one was funnier. And you're just blindsided by the fact that Bill Murray is he's playing some bizarre character trying to kill a gopher.
Yeah.
And the gopher is still also really badly done.
I will say I did the back half of this movie where it becomes just a golf game, a golf match between Jackie Mason and the King of the Wasps, the Wasp King. It kind of fell apart for me because I really lost track of what was going on from that
What, you weren't engaged fully in the game of golf?
I think I enjoyed this movie in the sense that after an hour, my brain turned off and then it turned back on when there was 5 minutes left.
If you've got any golf questions, please direct it my way. I can assist.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, I know the environmental impact of golf means that I think there should be less, if not no, golf courses. It makes sense in Scotland where there was a lot of unusable land in the first in the dunes and then the highlands.
I was actually talking to a friend of the podcast, Tony, about this, who is very he knows about this stuff, and he said that there's some environmental impacts into maintaining golf courses, but then there's also a lot of pros to it as well, which means conservation of land.
It depends on where you put the golf course.
Exactly.
Because I mean, it doesn't count as conservation when you obliterate local wildlife and fauna or flora to make a golf course.
I'm not asking about the environmental impacts of golf. I'm saying, do you have any questions about golf?
What questions are there to have? I mean, you hit using the wood, the 3 wood,
Michelle.
And then you get closer. You could get in the pit. I had a golf game.
What's the pit?
That's the sand pit. I had on PS1. No, not on PS1 actually. On Sega Mega Drive. My older brother, he's 10 years older than me. Just so listeners know, he had a Sega Mega Drive when he was younger that was kept at a neutral space at my dad's, right? We don't share a mother, so neither of us live with my father. But then that meant as I got older, I got to use it. It's why I'm a big fan of Sonic the Hedgehog. Tails is my fucking jam. I love him. I have my Tails mug right close by. But one of the other games on it that I also had Buck Rogers as an RPG, and I had a golf game.
Yeah.
And I really didn't understand it. And I had to try really, really hard. And then on PS1 later, I did also have a golf game.
That's why I'm giving you an open forum to ask questions.
I'm telling you, I'm an expert. I already know. You use the 3 wood to drive down the main
Central
thing.
Alt Shift.
You could... Abigail, you know what a game controller is. There's no keyboard here.
Okay.
Oh, Abigail.
I wasn't really paying attention, I suppose. I was thinking about how I used to play the Flash game Mini Putt Putt 2.
Oh.
When it was out on the internet.
There were a lot of putt-putt Flash games, and they were pretty good. I played some of those. They were fun. Because you always get like the top down, and then the arrow, and you try and bounce it. There was like I remember there was like a space one.
Oh, nice.
It's like a space putt-putt, and so then it would play with gravity a bunch.
I
cool.
have a golf game on my phone. I think it's called like something stupid like Golfing Bonanza.
Golfing Bonanza?
Something
You have
like
a game
that.
called Golfing Bonanza on your phone in 2023?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. And Claude kind of marvels at it while I'm watching it because...
Wait, he looks over your shoulder to like see you play it?
And he's like, I can't believe you're playing that. He's not being like, wow, babe, great job. He's like, I can't believe you're playing Golfing Bonanza again in 2023.
Is it fun?
Yeah.
Is it well made or is it like a bunch of spam?
And you've got lots of different levels and you can play with real people at the same time.
How do you play with... Golf isn't really... What do you mean? So you like alternate turns or something?
It's all about... I mean, like, you have to play it with other people because then par doesn't matter.
You play it versus other people.
Yeah.
You don't play it... But like, it's like... soccer, you play with other people. Even so, like climbing, it could be like a race.
If this is about
golf,
if you're trying to catch me out on the specific wording I use,
I'm not trying to understand it. I'm trying to interpret what you're saying, Abigail. I'm not trying to.
If you're playing a game of golf with people, you'll be automatically versing them. It's one man for himself. Always.
It's one man, every man for himself.
Always.
No, but I'm asking how. So you hit it, and then it's their turn, and they hit it from the same spot.
Yes.
And then you transport to where you are. And then you go the next one, and then it transports to where they are?
We all move at the same time, which is interesting.
So then you're playing golf simultaneously.
Yeah, which is not what you do in real life. Michelle, we don't need to get into the semantics of how Golfing Bonanza
You brought it
works.
up. You brought up Golfing Bonanza. I'm trying to take an interest in your life, man.
Tension did not need to arise from talking about Golfing Bonanza.
I'm trying to talk about your interests, all right? Be a good friend.
I'm just trying to... Oh, it doesn't matter. Do you want to hear some trivia? I'm done with this. I'm done with this. IMDb trivia. All right, trivia. Chevy Chase was the only original cast member to return for this movie, and he later regretted the decision. Producers begged Rodney Dangerfield to return, but upon reading the script, he reportedly threw it in the trash can. Warner Brothers then sued Rodney Dangerfield for refusing to appear in the movie.
Oh my God.
Apparently, during post-production, Chevy Chase said to the director, Alan Arkush, "Call me when you've dubbed the laugh track," and then walked away disgusted. Which is funny, but also what a dick move. What a dick move. Also, again, I reiterate, what in God's name did Chevy Chase see as a difference between this and the first one? Because I would have watched both and been like, somehow it improved. But he's like, the first one was better. I'm disgusted.
Chevy Chase doesn't regret it because it was bad. Chevy Chase regrets it because it wasn't received well, and he likes acclaim.
True.
There's on Community, he's apparently very competitive whenever someone else would get laughs.
Yeah. Fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Robert Stack, who played the old Chandler Young, the owner of the club.
Oh, yeah. King of the Wasps, stated sarcastically that performing in this film was the highlight of his illustrious career. Oh, my God.
Bill Murray opted out of appearing in this film in favor of starring in Scrooged.
Oh.
And I'm happy because I loved Scrooge.
That poster has the most emoting I've ever seen from Bill Murray. He really doesn't like to move his face very much.
And that's why the role in Lost in Translation was made for him. So I'm just emotionless most of the time.
Yeah.
And I'm stuck in Tokyo. And there's this hot young woman. And you don't know if we're going to have sex or not.
And she's the only other one who speaks English. So you could say we're lost in... wait, hang on.
Wait, what's the film called?
We're both lost with other people. And she's dating Spike Jonze or something.
Here's the last piece of trivia. Despite the poor experience he had directing this film, Alan Arkush said that he enjoyed working with Dan Aykroyd.
That's nice.
That is nice. I think Dan was like the only good part of the film for him.
Yeah.
And to be honest, watching it, he's the only good part of the film watching it as well.
I also get it in that sometimes you work on something where like it doesn't really come together, but you did like enjoy making something, like you enjoy your colleagues. It's like nice work, you know? Yeah.
And he is working with a bunch of professionals and people like the guy that played Chandler Young, Robert Stack, who were actually like Hollywood icons in the 60s. It would have been amazing to work with them.
It's like, you know, you have at your job, you do something and then it's like, it's not great, but you're like, yeah, we're here. Yeah. You know?
Also, this didn't make it into the trivia, but I do think it's worth mentioning that Alan Arkush, the director, never directed a feature film again after this.
Oh my God, a lot of one-time directors on this list.
Yeah. This film broke a lot of men's careers.
It really did.
Do you want to hear some reviews?
Yes, please.
Reviews! So this film has a score of 4% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yikes.
I know. The site's consensus reads, handicapped by a family-friendly PG rating, even the talents of Caddyshack 2's all-star comic cast can't save it from its lazy, laughless script and uninspired direction.
That's a weird review, because I feel like the only reason to lament it being PG is the lack of titties.
Yep.
That's so
because there
weird.
were titties that women didn't want to show in the first one.
That's such a weird critical
boring.
review, is to go less titties.
I know. Rita Kempley of the Washington Post wrote, Caddyshack 2, a feeble follow-up to the 1980 Laugh Riot, is lamer than a duck with bunions and dumber than grubs. It's patronizing and clumsily manipulative, and top banana Jackie Mason is upstaged by the gopher puppet. I don't agree with anything she said.
Wait. Lame as a duck is a phrase, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why is it? The ducks can walk.
I don't know. Is it because they waddle? I don't know.
Yeah, because I get trying to put a spin on it and saying a duck with bunions made me go like, well, I guess that would make it walk less, but that means it can walk.
I have bunions and I can walk.
Yeah.
But I am lame. Michael Wilmington of the Los Angeles Times said, the film was so bad, it makes Caddyshack 1 look like The Godfather 2. Karen James of the New York Times ended her review of the film with the words, if Jackie Mason hopes to make the king of Segway from stand-up comedy to movies that Mr. Dangerfield did, he and his advisors better think again. Caddyshack 2 is the kind of film that sends careers spiraling downward.
Whoa.
Grim.
Did they say the king of Segway?
Yeah, king of... If he hopes to make the... Oh, God, I'm such an idiot. I misread it.
No.
If Jackie Mason hopes to make the kind of segue from stand-up comedy
cool
to movies.
That makes more sense. I was like, what the fuck is the king of Segway?
That's us. Beginning of every podcast episode.
Yeah, every episode that people leave going like, you know what was really good in that one? The segues.
I know. Here's an IMDb review.
There's one there.
Left by Brian Blue Sky. And it's called A Movie for Lazy Golfers. And it's actually a 1 out of 10 review.
Oh.
This movie is just as dumb as the first one. The purpose of these movies is for rich country club golfing, lazy, idiotic, stupid morons can enjoy. These movies rip on the working class and have the chesiest humor. But what would I know? I live in middle-class suburbia and don't play golf, sad face. Oh. So I guess I can't be in the Caddyshack posse. 1 out of 10. This guy wasn't even about the film. It was about him and some chip on his shoulder.
He's just mad that other people are playing golf in fiction.
He left it in 1999. I hope he's moved on. I hope his life has improved.
Every time there's a golf movie, he's like, oh, fucking golf people.
I'm so glad IMDb has been around for so long that we can read the absolutely insane reviews left by someone 24 years ago. Oh. He was probably like 16 and in his like little computer, like in his get in the gaming room in his parents' house.
Yeah.
Here's another review left by Load of Smith.
Get a load of Smith.
It's a 7 out of 10 review, and it's called Awesome Movie.
Ooh.
I have seen this before in the 80s. I watched it again yesterday. I laughed. I giggled. I giggled through the whole movie. 7 out of 10.
Perfect review. Every review should be like that.
I know. And here's a last review left by Bevo13678 called Hole in One, and it's a 10 out of 10 review.
Ooh.
I like the bit where he hit the ball and it got a hole in one on par 4. 10 out of 10. So that was Bevo's review, Michelle. What was your review of this golfing bonanza?
Oh my God, this, you know what? My housemate was here for a portion of this because they were just, making food, going about their day, and I had to burden them with this movie being on.
Yeah.
And I commented, I was like, this movie is kind of the comedy equivalent of when we have to do found footage movies. It's kind of the movie where nothing really happens.
Yeah.
And there's not really enough jokes for me to feel like in the middle there's anything happening. They kind of deploy Randy Quaid, but the shtick gets old after the first scene he's in, so I don't really care about him. It's kind of like, this is the movie I would use if I was going to recreate the mind wipe from Men in Black. I think that's what happens, is that when they see the Flash, they watch Caddyshack 2, and it just obliterates anything they've seen. I definitely got dumber after watching it. I didn't enjoy it as much as you did. I'm gonna give it, but it was a movie, so I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 10.
The fact that we've got like a standard, like a bar that we can hit, which is it was a movie.
Yeah,
is so sad.
It's long been that if 5 is a good year, 2 is a movie.
It looks like a movie. It sounds like a movie. 2 out of 10.
It was as lame. It was lame. Thus, it is like a duck. It is a movie.
Having watched Caddyshack, being so thoroughly disappointed by the rewatch of it, and then moving on to this, I had a better time with it than you did. I think if you'd seen the first one and then watched this, you probably would have also been like, this felt better.
Yeah.
And I laughed at a few lines of dialogue, which was better than only laughing at Rodney Dangerfield's, "Hey everybody, we're all gonna get laid."
Well, I did too, but only in the same sense that sometimes someone in a coma will twitch, you know?
You didn't mean to.
Yeah, it's an involuntary response showing a lack of consciousness.
I'll give this a 3.5 out of 10.
It's one of the bigger disparities for a movie that we both didn't like.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking about how bad it can get on this podcast.
That's very true.
And I know I need to, be fair. Actually, I've never said that before, and I don't believe that. I won't be fair next week. I can guarantee you.
I was re-looking over our ratings graph, and it really is interesting how at the beginning I was consistently more generous, and then you have become sharply more and more generous.
Because it's just getting, I don't know what I'm doing, man.
You're like, this one didn't make me cry. It was shorter than Sex and the City 2. Okay, cool.
It was 90 minutes and didn't involve someone getting sexually harassed. 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Well, guys, did you enjoy that with us? Because if you did and you love us, you should follow us on social media. We're on X at Rate Descend Pod. We're on TikTok at Rating Descending, or you can email us at ratingdescending@gmail.com. It really makes a difference.
Or you can find us on our own social media. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at michelle.stclair. Also, please, you can find the docu-series Unerased at unerased.tv on TikTok, or -18 Youth on Instagram, or you can find the K-drama rom-com series on YouTube, No Ordinary Love, on YouTube.
How good.
Wow.
And this is the bit where I used to say you can find me on Instagram, but props not.
Yeah. You can't find Abby on Instagram anymore.
Nah.
Well, you can. It's just she doesn't care about it.
No, shit, I don't. Yeah.
Or you could, once you're done with your futile attempt to follow Abby on Instagram, you can leave us a review. Maybe don't take that into consideration of your review, and just keep it as a 5 out of 5 wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, that was the Caddyshack sequel. Michelle, what are we watching next week?
Next week, we are watching Exorcist 2, The Heretic.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the first one so much.
Ooh, I'm a spooky guy. I'm taking over Reagan. Aunt Olmec's von Sydow. I'm here to cook you up. I might be misremembering this movie.